Egypt, 1922. When British archaeologist Howard Carter was busy uncovering Tutankhamun's tomb, he found something that made him pause. Hidden behind the golden mask of the boy king were traces of another name. A name that had been deliberately erased and replaced. This wasn't just grave robbing. This was something far more sinister. Someone had tried to completely erase two of Egypt's most powerful pharaohs from history itself. But why would an entire civilization want to forget their own kings? The answer lies in one of history's greatest cover-ups, involving forbidden love, religious revolution, and a secret so dangerous that it nearly destroyed ancient Egypt forever. The forgotten Pharaoh. His original name was Amenhotep IV, but history would remember him as Akhenaten, the heretic king who dared to challenge the gods themselves. In 1353 BC, he ascended to the throne of the most powerful empire on earth. Egypt controlled trade routes from Africa to Asia, commanded armies that stretched from Nubia to Syria, and possessed wealth beyond imagination. But Akhenaten had a vision that would shake the foundations of everything Egyptians believed. For over 3,000 years, Egypt had worshipped hundreds of gods. Ra, the sun god; Isis, the mother goddess; Anubis, the guardian of the dead. The priests of these gods controlled vast temples, owned enormous wealth, and held power that rivaled even the pharaoh himself. Akhenaten looked at this system and declared it all false. There was only one God. He proclaimed Aten, the disk of the sun. Every other deity was a lie. Every temple, except those dedicated to Aten, should be closed. Every priest who refused to convert should be stripped of power. This wasn't just religious reform. This was a revolution. The city of the Su to demonstrate his commitment to this new faith. Akhenaten did something unprecedented. He abandoned Thebes, the ancient capital of Egypt, and built an entirely new city in the middle of the desert. He called it Akhenaten, the horizon of Aten. This city was unlike anything Egypt had ever seen. Instead of the traditional, rigid, formal art that had defined Egyptian culture for millennia, Akhenaten featured flowing, naturalistic sculptures and paintings. The pharaoh was depicted not as a godlike figure, but as a loving father playing with his children. And those children were born to the most beautiful woman in ancient history, Queen Nefertiti. Her name meant the beautiful one has come, and surviving sculptures suggest she truly lived up to that title. Together, Akhenaten and Nefertiti ruled from their sun-drenched capital, worshipping their one god and raising their daughters in this radical new world. But paradise never lasts forever. The mysterious co-ruler around the 12th year of Akhenaten's reign something strange happened. A new name began appearing on royal monuments alongside the pharaoh Smenkhkare. Egyptian records are frustratingly vague about who this person was. But one thing was clear: Smenkhkare held the title of co-pharaoh, sharing power with Akhenaten himself. Here's where our story takes its first shocking turn. Modern analysis of tomb inscriptions and artistic depictions suggests something that would have scandalized ancient Egypt. Smenkhkare wasn't just Akhenaten's co-ruler. The evidence points to something far more intimate and far more dangerous. In a world where pharaohs were considered living gods, where royal bloodlines determine the fate of empires, Akhenaten appears to have elevated his male lover to the throne of Egypt itself. The forbidden, low-v surviving artwork from Akhenaten shows Akhenaten and Smenkhkare in poses typically reserved for royal couples. They're depicted sharing intimate moments, touching hands, even embracing under the rays of their sun god, Aten. In one relief, Smenkhkare wears the crown of a pharaoh, while Akhenaten places a protective hand on his shoulder. But this relationship was more than personal scandal. It was political dynamite. Egyptian royal succession depended on legitimate heirs. Pharaohs needed sons to continue their divine bloodline. By elevating a male companion to co-ruler status, Akhenaten wasn't just breaking social taboos. He was threatening the entire foundation of Egyptian royal power. The priests, already furious about the religious changes, now had the perfect weapon to use against their heretic king. The traditional nobility, watching their ancestral privileges being swept away, saw their chance for rebellion. Egypt was on the brink of civil war. The conspiracy begins. What happened next reads like something from a political thriller. Around 1336 BC, both Akhenaten and Smenkhkare vanished from the historical record simultaneously. No burial records, no death announcements, no transition ceremonies. They simply disappeared. Suddenly, a boy named Tutankhamun appeared on the throne, originally called Tutankhaten, but quickly renamed to honor the old gods. This child, Pharaoh, barely 9 years old, couldn't possibly rule on his own. Behind him stood the real power, the old priests, the traditional nobles, and the military commanders who had never accepted Akhenaten's revolution. The boy king's first official acts tell us everything we need to know about what had really happened. Akhenaten was abandoned overnight. The beautiful city of the sun was left empty, its palaces and temples gradually buried by desert sand. The capital returned to Thebes. The old gods were restored to their temples. The priests reclaimed their wealth and power. But most telling of all, every inscription bearing the names Akhenaten or Smenkhkare was systematically destroyed throughout Egypt. The great eras, what followed was one of history's most thorough attempts to erase someone from existence. Across Egypt, armies of workers chiseled the names of both pharaohs. From temple walls, tomb inscriptions, and royal monuments, where their cartouches once appeared, only blank stone remained. Official king lists simply skipped from Amenhotep III directly to Tutankhamun, as if the 17 years of Akhenaten's reign had never happened. In papyrus records, scribes referred to him only as the enemy or the criminal of Akhenaten. Smenkhkare wasn't even granted that dubious honor. He was simply forgotten entirely. The erasure was so complete that by the time of Cleopatra, over 1300 years later, most Egyptians had no idea these pharaohs had ever existed. But here's what the conspirators didn't count on. Archaeological evidence can't be completely destroyed. The Dsu Ovry Akhenaten opened Tutankhamun's tomb in 1922. He found evidence of the cover-up everywhere. The boy king's burial mask had been hastily modified. Traces of different names were visible beneath the gold. His canopic jars, which held his preserved organs, showed signs of being originally prepared for someone else. More shocking discoveries followed. In the tomb's treasury, Carter found a miniature golden coffin containing a lock of hair. DNA analysis decades later would prove this hair belonged to an older woman, almost certainly Queen Nefertiti. But Nefertiti's own tomb has never been found. In the Valley of the Kings, archaeologists discovered tomb KV-55 containing a mummy that had been deliberately vandalized in ancient times. The face had been torn away. The cartouches identifying the body had been carefully removed. DNA testing revealed this was a male in his 20s. Closely related to Tutankhamun, this was almost certainly Smenkhkare, murdered and then desecrated to ensure his soul could never find rest in the afterlife. The truth are recent. Archaeological discoveries have painted an increasingly clear picture of what really happened in those final years. Ground-penetrating radar has revealed that Nefertiti's tomb may be hidden behind walls in Tutankhamun's burial chamber, suggesting she too was eliminated and her burial hastily concealed. Analysis of Tutankhamun's own mummy shows he died from traumatic injuries, a broken skull, and ribs. Even the boy king, despite being used as a puppet ruler, eventually became too dangerous to the conspirators who had put him in power. The evidence suggests a brutal series of political murders designed to completely eliminate Akhenaten's family line and restore the old religious order. But why was this cover-up so important that it continued for over 3,000 years? The dangerous CCR answer lies in what Akhenaten's revolution really represented. His monotheistic religion, his elevation of a same-sex partner to royal status, his artistic innovations, all of this challenged not just Egyptian tradition, but the entire basis of pharaonic power. If word had spread that pharaohs could be openly challenged, that the gods themselves could be declared false, that royal succession could ignore traditional bloodlines, it would have inspired revolutions throughout the ancient world. The priests and nobles who orchestrated the cover-up weren't just protecting their own power. They were preserving a system of government that had kept Egypt stable for over 3,000 years. But they couldn't have imagined that 3,300 years later, archaeologists would uncover their secret and reveal the truth about Egypt's most scandalous pharaohs. The leg Waitade, Akhenaten, is recognized as one of history's most fascinating rulers, a visionary who was perhaps 3,000 years ahead of his time. His artistic innovations influenced styles that wouldn't reappear until the Renaissance. His monotheistic beliefs prefigured Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. His apparent same-sex relationship challenges our assumptions about ancient attitudes toward sexuality. Smenkhkare, meanwhile, remains one of history's great mysteries. Was he truly Akhenaten's lover, or simply a younger brother who shared his radical vision? The evidence strongly suggests the former, making him perhaps the first openly gay ruler in recorded history. Their love story, if that's what it was, cost them everything. Their names, their city, their revolution, and ultimately their lives. But in trying to erase them completely, their enemies guaranteed that when the truth finally came to light, it would be even more shocking and compelling than the original scandal. The empty sands where Akhenaten once stood are now being excavated by international teams of archaeologists. Every season brings new discoveries, fragments of wall paintings showing intimate scenes between the two pharaohs, broken statues that had to be pieced together like ancient puzzles, and inscriptions that someone tried very hard to destroy forever. Perhaps most remarkably, recent discoveries suggest that not everyone in ancient Egypt supported the erasure. Hidden in workers' villages and forgotten tomb chambers, archaeologists have found secret shrines to Aten and hidden inscriptions honoring the memory of the heretic king. Even 3,000 years ago, there were people who remembered Akhenaten and Smenkhkare, not as criminals or enemies, but as revolutionary leaders who dared to imagine a different world. The question that haunts archaeologists today is this: what other secrets are still buried beneath Egypt's sands? How many other pharaohs? How many other love stories? How many other revolutions have been lost to history's greatest cover-ups? If you're fascinated by these ancient mysteries and want to discover more incredible stories of love, power, and conspiracy from history's shadows, hit that like button right now. Your support helps us uncover more amazing tales that have been hidden for thousands of years. Subscribe to our channel to journey with us into history's greatest secrets. We're constantly discovering new stories that will change everything you thought you knew about the ancient world. Drop a comment below and tell us, which ancient mystery should we investigate next? Your suggestions drive our research into the past's most incredible secrets. And share this video with anyone who loves history, archaeology, or incredible true stories. Trust me, they'll be amazed by this tale of ancient Egypt's most scandalous pharaohs. The story of Akhenaten and Smenkhkare proves that some secrets are too big to stay buried forever. What other truths are waiting to be discovered?